Hey guys, as much as I hate to admit it, I messed up. Earlier in the year, I released a video of some of my favorite 16-bit arcade games that had been ported to the Sega Master System. But I recorded some of the gameplay footage with the wrong audio. Let's correct that mistake right now in episode 99 of Retro Bits. In the previous episode, I mentioned that the Master System was largely a cosmetic redesign of the earlier Sega Mark III. Both systems integrate the Texas Instruments SN76489 Programmable Sound Generator, or PSG, directly into the video display processor. The Mark III also had an FM sound unit add-on that increased the system's capabilities through the implementation of the Yamaha YM2413 chip. When the updated Master System was released, Sega integrated the Yamaha chip directly into the main unit, but only on the Japanese model. The rest of us had to make do with just the PSG audio. I even mentioned this in the other video, but I guess it must have slipped my mind when I was recording the gameplay footage. You see, when I make these videos, I generally prefer to capture gameplay footage from the Mr. FPGA instead of from the original hardware. The reason for that is that the Mister can simultaneously output analog RGB video to a CRT and HDMI to my capture device at the same time. With its excellent built-in scaler, the Mister is both super convenient and versatile for this task. What I failed to notice, however, is that the Master System core supports the FM sound chip. Not only that, but it's enabled by default. I happily went about recording gameplay footage with the Yamaha chip enabled and didn't even notice until a bunch of you commented that the games sounded different from how you remembered them. Whoops, my bad. Alright, let's take a quick look at the capabilities of each. The SN76489 PSG was originally designed by Texas Instruments and used in a wide variety of arcade systems, computers, and game consoles, including TI's own 99.4A, the BBC Micro, ColecoVision, PC Junior, and Tandy 1000, among others. The PSG can produce 3 mono square wave channels of variable frequency and volume. It can also generate 1 channel of white or periodic noise. In this regard, the PSG was somewhat limited compared to the more advanced sound chips seen in other systems of the day. No surprise, as the underlying tech traces back to 1979, and the Master System had its North American debut in 1986. Square waves are easy to generate, making such chips simple and cheap to manufacture. It's a bit of an oversimplification, but you can think of it like this. The output voltage is either on or off, and there's really nothing much in between to worry about. Consequently, you could find square wave generators in a lot of early arcade games, home computers, and game consoles, but by the time the Master System arrived, more advanced chips were commonplace, such as Commodore SID, which could produce complex sawtooth and triangle waveforms with programmable attack, decay, sustain, and release. The YM2413 FM chip, also known as the OPLL, is a cost-reduced version of the OPL2 chip that could be found in the popular AdLib and Sound Blaster cards for the PC. The chip offers 2 modes of operation, 9-note polyphony in mono, or 6 notes of melody in addition to 5 simultaneous rhythm sounds. For cost reduction purposes, many of the OPL2's internal registers were eliminated. As a result, the OPLL only offered a single user-definable instrument with programmable ADSR. The chip also stored 15 hard-coded melody tones in ROM that couldn't be altered by the user. Of note is that while Sega's Mega Drive/Genesis offered full backward compatibility with the Master System, the FM chip was not included in the main unit nor in the power base converter. It is possible to add this capability back though, and several multicarts offer this feature, such as the Mega EverDrive Pro. The OPLL chip implements frequency modulation synthesis by tuning waveforms to produce desired sounds. FM operators are the building blocks, and each one consists of a digital oscillator that produces the desired waveform and an envelope generator that shapes the waveform over time. Two operators combined to create a single voice using an algorithm that, you know what? It's not important right now. The takeaway here is that FM synthesis allows for much more complex sounds to be created when compared to basic square waves. But the OPLL chip is limited in what it can produce compared to its full-featured siblings. Alright, let's revisit some of the games from the previous video that have support for the FM chip, and we'll do a little side-by-side comparison. First up is one of my all-time favorites, Outrun. The soundtrack, composed by Hiroshi Kawaguchi, is one of the game's most defining and important features. For what it's worth, Kawaguchi wasn't involved in the SMS conversion though. Curiously, the crashing wave effect during the selection screen is generated by the PSG, regardless of whether the FM chip is present or not. Clearly the two are quite different. The PSG has a certain old-school charm to it that I love, but the more advanced FM is definitely closer to the original composition. Neither option has much in the way of sound effects beyond the squealing tires and the occasional crash. There's no engine noise or passing cars like there are in other versions of the game. I do think that the PSG's noise effects are definitely more pronounced. They're a little flat on the FM chip. Now, this is kind of crazy, but both renditions of just this song have the same tempo and pitch, so they align perfectly when I overlay them together. I think this is by far the best version. The PSG has to give up one of its channels for certain sound effects like passing a checkpoint. The FM chip has enough channels to spare that this isn't an issue. Alright, let's turn off the sound effects entirely and give a listen to the other tunes. Alright, I gotta be honest, I don't care for either version of this song. They're much too fast compared to the arcade version, and there's some weird syncopation going on that I just can't get over. There's no mistaking that this is Outrun and everything is here. I'm especially impressed what they've been able to achieve with only 4 PSG voices and just square waves. Great stuff. Another favorite of mine is a game where, like Outrun, the soundtrack is integral to the experience. Composed by Kazunaka Yamane, every track in Double Dragon is a memorable one, and thankfully, they're all present and accounted for here in the SMS port. Once again, the FM sound effects just aren't as good as they are on the PSG. You could even say that they lack punch? Listen closely, and you can hear the percussion track drop out whenever there's a fight sound. It's hardly noticeable because the effects are more pronounced. Clever. When you lose a life, so does one of the music channels. The FM music is much closer to the arcade, which coincidentally used a Yamaha OPM chip, so no surprises there. Alright, once again, let's drop the sound effects and give the game's other music tracks a listen. I'll say it again. I'm constantly amazed at how composers of the day managed to squeeze so much out of the hardware, given its pretty significant limitations. More great stuff. Next up, we've got the excellent Master System port of Rampage. I think by now it's fair to say that the PSG sound effects are more pronounced and crunchy, befitting the types of games we've seen so far. The Yamaha sounds are often too smooth and mellow. That said, Rampage does have some of the best FM sound effects we've seen so far. The FM chip's more diverse instrumentation gives it a pretty clear advantage in the music department. The PSG music has old school charm, but it was feeling pretty dated by 1986. The game has 50 levels to demolish your way through, but there's only the single background music track, so you're gonna get tired of it really fast. It's strange that none of the games we've looked at so far use the PSG and FM sounds at the same time. If you disable the FM chip mid-game, you just get silence. The Japanese Master System allowed for both audio devices to be mixed together, so I don't think there's a technical reason that the developers couldn't have used the PSG for sound effects and the FM just for music. CPU cycles, maybe. Last but not least is Shinobi, another arcade hit that used the Yamaha OPM chip as part of the Sega System 16 hardware. There's no title screen music though, but at least that's consistent with the original. The arcade's Stage 2 music is the only track we get on the Master System, and it's reused for all 14 regular levels. That's a bit disappointing because I really like the original Stage 1 music, and there are a bunch of other tracks that didn't get ported over either. Oh yeah, there is the bonus stage music too. There's also a unique track for the boss fight at the end of each stage, but the same music is reused for the final boss battle as well. You do get a little victory jingle for defeating each of the stages, but your reward for completing the final mission is nothing more than a silent game over screen. Sorry Shinobi fans, I know a lot of you love this game, but this particular port continues to disappoint. Right, so can you add FM support to your non-Japanese Master System? Yes, you can. A third-party add-on can be purchased for about $50 US that installs in the console's expansion slot. It does require some soldering to mix the FM audio back into the system, so it's not quite a plug-and-play affair. All in all, about 60 Master System games had support for the Yamaha OPLL audio, just under 17% of all released titles. Of the ones we looked at in the previous episode, Ghouls and Ghosts, Marble Madness, Paperboy, and Space Harrier don't support the FM chip, but curiously, Space Harrier 3D does. So, which chip do you prefer? I'm still of the opinion that the PSG produces the best sound effects and the FM music is the way to go. Too bad mixing them together wasn't an option. Something to consider though, the OPLL can produce 11 sounds simultaneously, but I don't feel like the result is 3 times better than what the PSG can do. If anything, it seems to me like a lot of the FM soundtrack conversions were kinda lazy and didn't take full advantage of the power of the Yamaha chip. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Alright, I hope that clears up any confusion I may have caused in the first Master System episode, and that you now have a good idea of the differences between the default PSG square waves and the Yamaha FM enhancements. Thank you so much for watching. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday season, and we'll see you next time on Retro Bits.